this is new. If you click on market time difference or the little picture beneath it, it's going to take you to this cool time converter I found online. So if I'm checking September today and I want to know what 7 a.m. is Provo time, then I'm going to go to 7 a.m. and that's going to be 1 p.m. UTC. Now, Green Chart reports in 24-hour, not 12, right? So instead of 1 o'clock, it's going to say 1 p.m., it's going to say 1300, right? So if you don't know how to do that, just click up here and then it'll do it for you. So 7 a.m. is 1300. Right now, if I want to check in the future, I can just click on this little calendar. Let's just go to December, for example, and now I can see that in Provo, when it's 7 a.m., it's 1400 UTC. So it's +7 in the fall and +6 in the spring. Seems backwards, right? It's just how it is. Okay, so cool little resource there. But the other one is this backtesting template that I changed a little bit. If you click on it, it's going to take you to a Google document, a Google Doc. If you don't have a Google account, set one up. It's free, obviously. You're not going to be able to modify this. You're not going to be able to write in here. If you were able to, then it would show up for everyone that accesses the same link. So if multiple people are accessing this, obviously you guys are going to change each other's stuff. We don't want that to happen. I just wanted to build it for you so that you can use it later. So it's simple. This little empty square up here, if you click on that and then you hold down Control and C on your keyboard, or right click and copy, whatever you want to do, and then go to File, New, Spreadsheet, name it. All right, you want to name it, and then just paste it. Man, the internet's really slow today. Yeah, he invented the internet, right? We should definitely call that guy and have him do something about it. Anyway, it's working, so that's good. Anyway, so post it, obviously format the cells. I've added some additional cells, so ultimately it's going to look like this, and you're going to be able to actually modify it. Put in the date, Green Chart time, right? Because if it's 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, that's a new day in Green Chart. So, or 6 p.m., or can't remember exactly, but Green Chart date. If the trade won, the goal you're going for, so if it's a flat top you're backtesting, or it's something that you just see in the indicators, you put what you were going for there. Max pips, if you scroll over here because you don't know what it means, how many pips did the signal output before drawing down 50 pips? Draw. If you're not sure what that means, again, the amount the market went against you before filling the trade, max of 50 pips against you, right? Time, the amount of time it took for the trade to fill. Report that in minutes. You can also double up and use this as a golden ratio template, in which case you're going to want to watch the golden ratio video and use this time as it pertains to collecting the golden ratio. Pressure, was the pressure in your favor, yes or no? So 1 is yes, 2 is no. I found that if you use numbers instead of letters or anything else, you can tabulate much simpler. So if I took one column and I tabulated all the ones, then those are yeses, and all the twos, then those are no's. Otherwise, I have to go and count them individually, right? So just trying to help you guys out. Candle, was the candle opposite or same direction? Again, 1 is same, 2 is opposite. P with a Y is pressure, yes, in your favor. Mark 1 if it is true, leave blank if it is false. So pressure, no, pressure is not in your favor. 1 if it is true, leave blank if it is false. If the candle is opposite, and the reason why I separate some of these sometimes is because then you can tell which ones are going to be relevant in your tabulations. It's better to collect as much information up front. Matter of fact, I don't have TNTs in here. You can add TNTs into your tabulations as well, right? And just collect as much information as you can up front. Otherwise, you're going to do like me and you're going to collect some. You're going to say, well, that's not good enough. Let's go back and see what we can change about it. And then after about the 15,000th time and over hundreds of hours, you realize, well, if I just collected all of that up front, then I can just dissect it 5 ways from Sunday, right? So it's just growing pains. And so I want to spare you guys from that. But you want 100 examples, right? And so you'll signal name, currency pair, spread. So you want to account for all those things as well. So if you're going for 3 pips and it's on capital city markets with a 1.2 pip spread, then you want to see if the market moved 4.2 pips. What would you set your take profit at? 3 pips. Your take profit wouldn't change, but the amount that the market has to move in order to award you that profit would change, right? Okay. So now we kind of understand what we're looking at. Oh, good. Finally. All right. So in green chart, if I'm going to test the classic on 2 different currency pairs simultaneously, then I need 2 of these. So I just add, another sheet. So if I'm here, I've already copied it, right? I add another one, and then I just paste it again. I guess you could probably just tabulate it on one, but it just makes it much cleaner and simpler if you have it on separate sheets. So this one would be classic, but the currency pair would be USD JPY, and then the spread relative to the UJ. So you got to really know what you're doing if you're going to do multiple currency pairs simultaneously. So that's just 2, right? Imagine if you had 5 or 6. Don't spread yourself too thin. Yeah, I hear moaning over there. It's probably because you've done it. You know how painful it is. All right, so if I'm looking at that time, and I'm just going to use the first 2 candles. And by the way, in the previous proving ground, we talked about preparing for proper. We talked about some of the parameters with which we want to test some of these theoreticals. One is that we want to use the range from January 2015 to current, but you don't want to necessarily use a linear path, because if you do, then you're going to just check every day and you're going to reach 100 trades somewhere in April or May or something, right? Which is only going to account for January or 2015 from January to May. So instead, you probably want to use 2 examples from each of those months from January 2015 to current. Okay, so if I find an example right now, that's going to count for 1 for January. And then I'd go look for a second. It has to fall into those parameters. It has to have happened in the times that I normally trade, and at least 2 examples for each of those months from January 15 to current. That would give you about 100 trades, give or take, because 2018 is not over yet. And hopefully it doesn't take you to the end of 2018 to do this. So, yes.
Where did you say we can find that backtesting template at again?
In the mastermind. Yep. So this is my real pitch. All right. Yeah, it's in the mastermind. But feel free to. It's not like I got patent pending. Take a picture of it. Right? If I provide it for you, then I'm going to provide support for it, which takes a whole lot of time. So usually I hire somebody to do it, and that's why only mastermind members. I'll just cut templates out for all day, and they have access to them. But it's very simple to rebuild. Let me know if you want to take a snapshot of that, take a picture of it, and I'll kind of toggle left to right or whatever you need. Oh, look, we started. Yep. Yeah, we're only about 30 minutes. Yeah, so if there is anybody, actually, there's still about 11 people on there. Wow, you guys are soldiers. Okay, I would have ditched that a long time ago. All right, so we want to look for our setup, which is just going to be in the major, minor, and pressure. We want double cross when it's oversold, pointed up, or double cross when it's overbought, pointed down. And we're going to look at the hour before we start trading, because that's the indication that we're going to be looking for. And if we're using 2 hours, then we want to look at this hour as well. So if we started on this candle, just to clarify, if we started in this candle, we didn't start looking at the market until this one was about finished. So from here to the end of this candle is only 1 hour, right? And then from here, we're looking at, do we have that cross? No. And then at the end of that candle, now that's 2 hours, right? In that time, did we see that set up on either UJ or Euro US? The answer is no. So, and for both of those hours, this is not a classic. Majors have just crossed, but minors crossed in the previous post. So even though they're both crossed and pointed down now, that's not a classic. Doesn't mean it's not going to sell. No, it just means that we don't have, it's not the pattern that we're looking for, right? It doesn't fit the parameters because it has to cross simultaneously. And it didn't. Just to go back, see the cross there, no cross on the majors. Next candle, majors finally crossed, minors kind of indecisive, and they both agree down. Okay, so we didn't see it there either. So now we'll go to the evening. And there's the 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time candle. So 7 p.m. Means that I'm going to be looking to take the trade on the 8 p.m. candle. So I want to analyze the 7 p.m. candle to see if I have my setup for the 8 p.m. trade, right? I don't, nor do I have it on the Euro USD. So go to the next. Don't have it there either. That's obviously not a classic. Miners weren't overbought. If you go back, you can see miners, and they were already crossed. And do we get it here either? Nope. You might be tempted to just continue to scroll until you finally find it. But let me tell you something. When I first started trading, I only traded Euro versus US dollar, and I took this very pattern, just the classic, because that's all I knew. And it was frustrating having to go day after day and not being able to place a trade because the only thing that I was familiar with didn't show up. But guess what I didn't do when I was trading live? If I didn't see what I was familiar with, I didn't take the trade. Right? You don't have to take the trade. You don't have to place the trade. Don't force it. No, it's true. It's true. I don't feel like you have to take a trade, right? If you don't see it, don't guess. It's real money, and you'll really lose it. So let's look for our setup. Let's just continue to go through. So we still have failed to find 2 examples in January for Euro USD and 2 examples for USD JPY. If we were looking outside of those times, would this be a classic? Right here. It does. What's wrong with it? You got it. Pressure. Green's not on top. Again, does it mean that it's not going to buy? No, but if those are the parameters in which you're trading, don't force it, right? So did it buy? Yeah, 8.8 pips. So it just depends on how many pips you're going for, right? Okay, so let's go. All right, right here. Let's go back. Minors already crossed, and then majors crossed. So not a classic, right? Still bought, but it wasn't what we were looking for, so we don't mark it, and nor did we get it thereafter. That's not cross necessarily. That is, but green's still on top. That's actually something else. Anybody know what that is? Somebody help me out here. Jimmy, what is that? What pattern is that right there? Can you see it from there? Yep. Who said it? Yep. Head fake. Majors are crossed along with minors. Usually on a head fake, guys, minors will have come together or crossed on the previous post, and then majors will soft cross, usually hang back, and then we got green on top with a red candle. This is kind of a chromy one because I like it when majors are kind of up here a little bit, not leaning down so much, but minors are fully into the channel. So that would actually be a buy. Not a big fan of it, but it would be a buy more than it would be a sell for sure. That's 10.7. It went 5.6 to the short side, though. We didn't get the follow-up trade, though, because these are not pointed up. All right, not what we're looking for. So then we go to the evening. Oh, there it is. No cross. Not on the next one either. We do kind of get it on the euro, though, right? Green and red, not crossed. Gray and black, not crossed. And now both of them are crossed. And where's green pressure? On bottom, right? So this is not the morning, it's the evening, but it fits the criteria. So if we're double dipping, we're trying to test as often as aggressively as possible to give ourselves the optimal opportunity to take trades, then we want to probably test for both. If we're already here, may as well test, right? So then here's where the magic happens. Mark the date, right? So this is going to be 1/6/2015, and then see what the result was. And we were looking for a short, right? And this went 1.7 short, 6.4 long. It's not done yet. The magic is not over quite yet. Let me do something that's bugging me. Obviously, if it's part of your process, you want to have as many indicators on there as possible. And if you're testing even something that's already been proven, if you can use other forms of validation that perhaps you're familiar with, use them, right? So that's why I have the TNTs on there, but let's just take them off for a second so we can look at this clearly. 6.4, 1.7, this would theoretically be our starting point at that crosshair right there. And we'll see what happens with it, right? So does this mean that it's a loser? Maybe based on how you were looking at it initially, right? But let's say, I mean, you wouldn't be, but let's say you were going for, 100 pip trade here. Well, 24.5 pips of drawdown isn't going to make, that much of a difference if you can hit that, even 50% of the time, right? 100 pips with a 25 pip drawdown, that's a 1-to-4 ratio. So if you hit your loser 50% of the time, it would only be worth 25 pips. And if you hit your winner 50% of the time, it'd be worth 100 pips. That would be a recipe for success. Who cares about the win rate, right? Because what can we not do with the win rate? You can't eat it, right? You can't spend it. I like that. You can't eat a win rate. Yep. You can't spend it on anything. Profit you can. Okay, so this is another example, but it's not in the time frame that we're looking at for. So we're not going to use it. And guess what? That one worked out better. It's the breaks, guys. Welcome to my world. So let's go back here. Okay, so no, we didn't have a double cross there. So you mark that, right? And everything you possibly can about this particular scenario. Because there's a lot to learn from that. There's a lot to glean from that. Then you really start to pay attention to pressure and the angle of pressure and, everything that you can really kind of sink your teeth into. But document as much as possible. I've given you a template, but it doesn't mean you have to do everything exactly as the template says. You want to add things, as often as you possibly can, and then add to the legend as well as what they mean. So here would be the date. Did it win? Well, based on the way we were looking at it, which was a 3-pip take profit, and it would have to be like a 9-pip stop loss for like an 83%. So we would be looking for like a 3-to-1. So if you don't think you can make a trade within 9 pips, then you're going to have to increase the stop loss, in which case you're also going to have to increase the take profit. So if I've got a 15 pip stop loss on an 85% win rate trade, then I've got to have at least a 5 pip take profit because it's a 3-to-1 ratio. And I don't need you guys to, it's not necessary that you guys know that, because I've got it documented and I provide it for you. You just have to know where to find it and access it, right? So don't expect you have to always figure out the math. I've got a calculator. I made it really simple for you guys. The goal, what the goal was, so let's just say it was 3 or 5 pips. The max pips, so this is how much it went before going 50 pips negative, right? So again, the research is not done because we could very well end up with something very useful. So right here, we know that it drew down about 24.5, yep. And then after that, it went not too much, only about 22. So to there is about 57.2. That's a 1-to-2 ratio. That means that I have half the amount of drawdown as I do profit. What kind of win rate could I use with a 1-to-2 ratio? I could do a 50% win rate if I wanted to. But is this enough information? No. It's not empirical scientific. You need to, but we've captured that information now, right? So later, if we see that, yeah, in fact, we can get 50 pips on that for the times that I trade, and it may take 6 hours or something, 8 hours or something, but I could hit that 50% of the time for the times that I trade and have a 1-to-2 ratio, 25 pip stop loss, 50 pip take profit. Now all I'm worried about is if my account is small, can I put in a lot size small enough to justify a 25 pip drawdown for a 50 pip profit, which means I'm only risking like half, less than maybe 70, 60, 50. You're probably talking about 25% risk, or 25% of a percent, right? What is that? 0.025. So that's all you want to risk in a situation like that, because if you have concurrent losers, it's really going to cost you. So that's the other thing you have to consider. With a $2,000 account, $5,000 account, if 1% is $50, then a quarter of that is going to be, what is that? $12.50, $12.50 for that trade, right? That's all I'm willing to risk, which means a 25 pip drawdown that would equal $12.50 would be a lot size of 0.02. Am I correct? So 0.02 would be 20 cents per pip. 50 times would be, what is that, $10? Is that right? So you got to kind of, is it really worth your time? I mean, maybe if your account was at 100,000, right? Or beyond that, absolutely. That'd be well worth it. But with that small amount, is it even worth your time?
Do they even let you trade that small?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. You can trade down to 10 cents per pip, which would be a penny per micro pip. Yeah. But with Capital City Market, for example, for some reason you can't do it on your computer, but you can do it on your phone. Yep. So just some life hacks. Some trader life hacks. So we've captured all of that information, but it's not done yet because we haven't even drawn down 50 pips. So the peak from here is what we're looking for, right? We've got another 133 since that point. So you cap it. 100 is good. Cap it at 100. So if you go beyond 100, just stop counting right there. Record your drawdown and then stop counting at 100. Same thing with 50. If it goes upside down and you 50, stop counting there. Otherwise, you might be at it forever. And that's great, right? I mean, that simple little thing right there drew down on us 25 pips and then went hundreds potentially. But it's not enough information. And was it really this pattern that did it? No, that's just what the market did, right? So that's the other thing you have to consider. But if it happens often enough, it happens you can prove it out scientifically and mathematically, then it's sound, right? So you're picking up on something there, and that's your lead in. Okay. But that's also why we want to cap it. All right, so we've got our information there. Would this have won based on how we approached it? Well, no, because we were looking for 3 pips or 3 to 5 pips with a 15 pip drawdown, right? So let's go to our next. And here's our next. We don't have it there, right? Because that crossed way back there. And we don't have it on the UJ either. And nor for the next candles. So let's go to the evening session. Do the same thing. Do we have it on either of those? No. What about there? Nope. You see that's already crossed. Those are not crossed. That's not even overbought or oversold. And then you see the majors come through plus greens on top. Oh, surprise, it bought. That's weird. those indicators were pointed down. Why did it buy? And then it sold. So that's the process, and it's the same process for, and it doesn't have to just be patterns, right? If there's some guys and they just want a certain amount of things to line up, right? I want my 60 to look a certain way. I want, and when that happens, I want my 30 to look a certain way, and then I want my 5 minutes to look a certain way. So you can link your charts. So you can have all those charts present. When something is that complicated, obviously you probably want to just do one currency pair at a time, right? Because that's just a lot of information to disseminate. But you do it the same way. Your reporting might be a little more aggressive, but if you've already got the theory in your head as to what you want to see, then you just go back and find those setups and then track the information. Once you've got empirical data, at least 100 examples from January, randomly from January 2015 to current for the times that you trade, and you've got something that's mathematically sound, then you can take it into the market. There's a reason why we use January 2015 to current, because if you go back on just about any currency pair, from that time to current, we've seen just about every market condition, just about, right? And so you're testing it throughout multiple market conditions, and not just a few months or even a year, because let's take 2016, for example. Think about before 2016, we didn't have a rate increase for, what was it, 8 years? 8 years. And since 2016, we went from less than 0.25% FOMC rate, FOMC interest rate for banks to now we're at, what are we at now? What is it? Are we at 2.25 already? I didn't think we were that high right now. Anyway, you get the point. 2016 in and of itself was completely different than anything we saw for the subsequent 8 years, right? Just for that one thing. Consider the Euro USD prior to 2014, and we hadn't seen the prices that it dropped down to from April 2014 to March 2015 since it was like 2002 or 2003 that we saw prices that low. Maybe it was even before that. Market conditions completely changed. So if we account for some of those things, it's going to make sure that our information is as scientific as possible. Here's the kicker. There's no such thing as 100%. If you find something that's 100%, show it to me. I want to poke holes in it. I actually have a pattern that is 100%. I tested it to like 2003 to current. And from 2003 to current, every single time that it happened, it produced 50 pips with like a 15 pip drawdown. It happened about 4 times. Is that empirical data? No. The very next one could eat your lunch, right? It's not enough information. 4 times. You can't build a trading strategy off of that. If I see it though, I'll let you guys know. So you want to have enough information to back your findings, and you don't have to guess, right? That's the great part about what we're suggesting here is you don't have to guess. We've mapped it out for you. This is the proving ground. This is how you back test it. Let me save you some of the time that I ran into in doing some of this, and give you the shortcuts, right? And when you're looking at these setups, you got to sometimes you got to step back from the situation, think outside the box, because you get tunnel vision, right? You're only looking for the thing that you're looking for. For example, as soon as we saw that classic, finally we saw one, right? And then it went 25 pips against us. And for most of you guys, you're like, oh, that's a loser, chalk it up. Because that's how I was, right? But I'm like, okay. Later, like sometimes a year later, I realized, well, there was probably some valuable information in there that I missed. Let me revisit some of that, right? And I realized, oh, well, if I would have just kept on going, that sucker ran like 150 pips after that, right? So is there something in there that I could work with? Sometimes the answer was yes. Most of the time the answer was no. Our patterns on average took 70 hours. Jimmy can attest to that. Kyle or Cameron, sorry, can attest to that. And we worked as a team a lot of times. You take this chunk, I'll take this chunk. Let's just all kind of spread out the work for that time frame. And I'll take January, February, March. You take April, May, and June, and then we'll compare notes, right? But we had to be totally calibrated, so you have to check each other's work randomly, right, to make sure that we're looking for the same things, and then compiling as much information as possible. So in the spirit of that, I also want to mention that some of the best strategies that I've had in trading was always bringing other people into my circle. It helps, first of all, so for you not to get that tunnel vision. It's great for accountability early on, because otherwise it's difficult to be integrous to yourself when you've done something that may be embarrassing, right? It's like, man, I knew better. Hindsight's always 20/20. At the time, I'm sure you thought it was a great idea, to use a 5 lot on a $2,500 account. And now you're upside down 16 pips and freaking out because you're almost margin calling, right? So, at the time it seemed like, well, that's a bet the farm trading, let's go for it. And that's about the time that it eats your lunch and you're not a trader anymore. But it's in those situations you don't want to admit that to anyone either. You don't want to tell anybody about it, where if you've already created that, understanding with somebody else where you guys are holding each other accountable, then you're not likely to get into that situation, especially if somebody's going to be, they're going to probably see it, right? And so versus have that conversation with them, it's better just to avoid it altogether, right? And not get yourself into a sticky situation. So it's great for accountability, but 2 heads are always better than 1, 4 heads better than 2, so on and so forth, right? And so I would definitely encourage you guys to do that. Buddy up. If you're not the type to be outgoing and social, that's why we've been talking so often lately about referring people, because you refer them, they start trading, and now you guys are able to go on this journey together, right? Or get your spouse to join you, which is a really popular thing to do, except for that for men, it's kind of a shot to our ego because women are usually better traders. So just forewarning you. But a lot of the reason why early on things worked as symbiontly as it did for us was because we had this small community of traders. I mean, we've grown now. We're in like 3 countries now, right? We've got a much larger base because we've moved away from exclusively word of mouth and invitation only to now doing massive marketing all across the United States. But we don't want to lose that aspect of like this camaraderie that we've been able to build, because it's really unique to our organization. There are people online that have never met, and they communicate all the time. They trade together, they screen share, whatever it may be. They may even be in different time zones. They may never meet, but they're like best of friends. They know each other's family, stuff like that, right? But it helps. Those facets help. I talk to a lot of traders that are new to, or rather have been in the industry for a long time, and a lot of them, there's a pretty general consensus, and that is that when you're in trouble, you tend to just seclude yourself. You lock yourself in your closet, and you don't want to, you just stress over it. Because first of all, you don't have anybody to talk to about it. When I tried to talk to my wife about trading when I first started, she's just like, oh my gosh, I have to hear this again. I don't care, it's like you can kind of see that look on her face. But she knew that I needed to vent, so she played along really well. But after she started trading, well, then I was like, oh my gosh, again, I got to hear this, right? It's like, no, but in all seriousness, it does bode well for you. And in situations like this, you can share the work. So I'll take January, you take February, right? And then alternate months. The work gets done quicker. Or I'll take Euro USD, you take USD JPY, right? And it shortens the work. And that's why I used guys like Cameron and like Jimmy and other people that helped in backtesting some of these patterns, because I didn't have time for it, right? I wanted to also grow the business. I wanted to bring people in so I could teach people how to trade, not just, focus on the patterns. But I knew there was some value there, and there was some insight that we could provide as a result of that. Anyway, I'm going to end with that, guys. Yes.
In the proving ground,
Mm-hmm.
Can you show us your collection of videos? I want to see how they're organized.
Yeah, so that's rough because we haven't organized them yet, but we're in the process of it. So right now, and this is why we created the syllabus as kind of a Band-Aid. because right now, if you look at the recorded videos, it's like a library with no index. They're all just thrown in there. So no one knows where to start. Usually you just go linear. You start with the first video and then work your way down the page. And then when you see the archives, you start at lesson 1 and you work to lesson 2, so on and so forth, which is absolutely the worst way to navigate it. But this all kind of exploded really quickly for us. So we wanted to capture the information and put it somewhere where people can access it. But obviously we're seeing that new people that come in that haven't been with us for very long are lost. They get in here and it's like too much information. It's information overload. So we're restructuring it, but a Band-Aid, a fix, if this will ever load, by the way, a fix is a syllabus. And the syllabus tells you, watch these videos, here's where you'll find them. And in linear fashion, watch these first, go through these steps first, then these steps, so on and so forth. So here's, I mean, there's just the archive, right? And there's all the videos there from 1 to 70, and then another pile of videos for the Mastermind archives from 1 to 42, and then TPG Basics, which we've just started, and that is Troy, and that's from 1 to 10. I'm out of time, guys. I'm going to hand this over to Kevin, and if you guys have any questions after this, feel free to approach me. For those of you guys that are online that stuck with us, please hang out for a second as Kevin makes a very important announcement.
Cool. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks, Hiram.
My pleasure.
You guys liking these Wednesday nights with Hiram? Good.
Ask them when I'm not around. Yeah.
No, I know people love Hiram, so they love his stuff. Holy cow. We're going we're going bigger on this trade competition. You guys are blowing my mind here. So okay. Jeff Willis. You here?
Whoa.
Are those an Aussie and Euro? That's a good question. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Wow. Almost 38,000.
Actually, I probably did get that. Yeah. After those certain trades closed. Yeah, cool. Okay, guys. So we're on our last week of our trade competition. This is we're taking the top 3 each week, and we're just going to take the best top 3 weeks. So, for instance, okay, I'll give you this. Like right now, Jeff, you're in the running to be the winner at the end of the month because you've had the best week so far, even though other people have had a week better than you in weeks past. Okay? So this is our last week from 7 p.m. tonight to 7 p.m. next week. That's when we're going to give out our final prizes there, our 4th week. And we'll also do just the gift card like we did tonight next week as well. You guys, the rules are Euro and Aussie only, okay? Against the U.S. And but you can have as many accounts as you want. You can, whatever methods you want to use around that. And I can see you guys, like I look at this and I'm like, okay, this isn't giving you super practical trading experience in my mind. But what it's doing is it's opening your minds. It's giving you an opportunity to really see what the market's showing you, see what the indicators are showing you, and teach you something new. Now, you guys have some really impressive results here, and something that we would love to be able to do is we'd love to be able to show that to people that that might be interested in trading. One of the things that's really important to us as a business is just the opportunity to work with the people that you guys know, okay? Because we are a business of connection. We're a business of community. I'm willing to bet that a lot of the people in this room came from somebody who introduced them to us versus just listening to a radio ad or seeing a sign somewhere. And that's something that's really important to us. A couple of reasons that matters to us is, number one, it helps the business grow. It keeps that community nice and tight knit, and it also gives us the capability for you guys to succeed even just a little bit better as a trader because you have other people around you trading as well. So if you can build that group of traders around you as well, there's just that much more likelihood of success around it. So I'd love to have you guys show off next week. Anybody who brings somebody to an intro with us, either here or online, we'll get you guys one of our custom silver coins, 1 ounce silver coin. 999 Pure, right? If you haven't seen them, let us know. We can let you check them out. And then if any of those people move into coaching, we're going to cover a month of your indicators just as a way of saying thank you for that. So if you guys can, I'll just say this. Does anybody have somebody that has come to their mind around tree? You guys had that as you sat here and thought, my brother or my aunt or whoever it might be. I would ask if you take that opportunity next week to show off a little bit on your numbers and bring them out to us and give us an opportunity to work with them. Okay. Appreciate your time tonight. Thanks again, Hiram. And
My pleasure.
Any questions for me at all before we wrap up?
So before we go, I'll sweeten the pot. If you guys bring a referral between now and the end of the month, well, actually it's the 30th. So we'll say by to 26th. So Sunday's the 30th, end of the week. All right, we'll do this. Between now and next Wednesday, if you guys bring somebody out or get somebody to an introduction, I'll give you a free month of Mastermind. So that's $200. That's worth $200.
Cool.
So just for bringing a referral, whether they sign up or not, I'll sweeten the pot.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you being here. Thank you.